And I always tell people, when your back is against the wall and you only have one choice, and that's to go up, you do remarkable and amazing things.
As kids, we're told to dream big and that we can do anything that we put our minds to. Somewhere during adolescence, that dream is lost. The Dreamer series will introduce you to an eclectic group of dreamers who will share with you their highs and lows as they walk you through their journey to success and living their dreams.
Well, what would be your advice to those who are watching?
Excuses always sound good to the people that make them.
I'd rather be the guy dropping the pass but out there going full force for my dreams and goals than ever being on the sideline.
Educate yourself as much as possible and be okay with falling flat on your face, but don't stop trying.
Come with me as I travel the country introducing you to those dreamers who will inspire you to live the life you are meant to live. Blake Leeper is a United States Paralympic athlete, international medalist, and world record holder. In 2012, Blake competed at the Paralympic Games in London, losing to South African Oscar Pistorius, whose world record of 45.39 seconds is the one that Leeper was chasing. In 2015, Blake Leeper served a one-year ban after testing positive for cocaine. In 2016, Blake returned to the sport with an unparalleled passion and commitment. His story of drive and redemption is one that defines inspiration. Blake shares with me some of his darkest moments, the struggles he has faced, and how he got back to the top of his sport. My man Blake, man, it's so great to have you here. Listen, I remember 2013, the Arsenio Hall show.
Yes.
Bo Jackson, Blake Leeper.
Yes.
Man, talk about that experience. What did that mean to you? Because I'm behind the scenes seeing everything that's going on, trying to keep everybody from trying to, give you the juice of what's going on. But talk about that experience.
Yeah, just that whole experience, you have to understand. I came off of 2012 and won a couple of Paralympic medals. And growing up as a kid, Bo Jackson was my hero. And I actually met Bo Jackson when I was 4 years old, fresh out of surgery, wasn't even walking my prosthetics in a wheelchair. And he reached out, my family reached out to him. He came back, met me, signed all my autographs, was my hero because he had the prosthetic hip. Wow. I had the prosthetic legs. Bo knows, right? Wow. Fast forward, I'm a silver medalist, bronze medalist, world record holder in the Paralympic Games. You and some other important people in my life reached out to Bo to bring him on the Arsenio Hall show to surprise me. And I remember you guys breaking everything down to me and said, look, but we're going to bring you out. Then halfway during the show, we're going to ask you to bring out your legs and talk about your legs. And, it's my first big time television show. So I'm extremely nervous trying to take it all in. And I never forget Arsenio's, he has his pictures all in the background with his finger pointing at you. And I'm just home finger. I'm like, oh my gosh. And this whole time, you guys are hiding Bo Jackson in the room next to me. Right. And towards before the show almost started, everybody was kind of freaking out a little bit, acting a little shady. Blake, you get back in the room and y'all bring Bo out and bring me back out for a mic test and everything.
And that was your first television appearance, so you're thinking this is really, really Hollywood.
This is okay. This is how everybody's pretty shady right before the show starts. This is normal, but I didn't know you guys were hiding Bo, so. We get into the interview with Arsenio Hall, and I'm still trying to keep my composure, and we're laughing, we're talking, and then we get halfway into the interview, and he's like, Blake, you brought your legs with you? And I was like, I remember Ryan told me, he's going to ask me about my legs. Okay, yeah, I'm ready for this. So he's like, how about we bring your legs out? And I was like, great, let's bring them out, let's do this. And I'll never forget, especially you're sitting on the couch, and the lights are so bright, and then you have the crowd, so Bo comes out, but the lights were so bright, I couldn't see Bo. But the crowd goes crazy and was like, oh, it's Bo. And so I'm like, oh, yeah, the blades, they're pretty awesome, right? Going along with the crowd, trying to keep it going. And I just seen this really big black man come across with a three-piece suit. And I've done local shows, small shows, and when they do that, it's usually a guy in some jeans and a hat, runs out the legs and runs back out. But Bo had him in his hands and he was just strutting the whole time. And by the time he came out the light, I was like, I'm trying to process all this. One, it's Bo Jackson. Two, it's Bo Jackson. How did it's Bo? The fact that he doesn't even like to do interviews, let alone come on TV, and I'm taken back when I was 4 or 5 years old, and now, honestly, Brian, I could have cried. Wow. And just to have that whole moment come full circle when
I think you did cry.
I did, yeah. I cried a couple of tears. It was tears of joy. I hugged him. It was just a hug of, it was him saying, "I'm proud of you, man." And I never forget when I was only 4 years old at that moment, but that was a moment special to me when my grandmother and my aunt reached out to him. And when you get to meet your hero at a young age, you know what I mean? And I kind of understood the reason why I got to meet him was because of my legs. So at the early age of my life, I realized my legs are there's something special about this situation. I get to meet my all-time greatest hero of all, and having that moment in 20 years later, and you know what I mean, less than 20 years, have him come out to say he's proud of me, and he, I'm an inspiration to him. Wow, it was amazing. It was crazy.
I had to start that off because number one, that's where we first met.
Yeah.
And number two, to see, like you explained so greatly, I mean, to see the emotions running through you at the time, man, I just knew that. I mean, I already knew you were special.
Yeah.
It was a special moment too. So I had to take people back because that's where we first met at. But speaking about early on in your life, man, I don't like to. You and I were talking before and talking about a condition, disability. What happened? Like, what took place at birth? I mean, I know you can really explain.
Yeah, I mean, some people call it disability, and I see it as a condition, a disability, whatever people can identify what my situation is. And basically, for the technical term is, I was born with congenital birth defect, fibular hemimelia. So both of my legs didn't develop in the womb. They didn't realize to the day that I was born. Of course, rushed me out of the room. Came back and had that conversation with my mother and father. I'm sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Leeper, I'm sorry, but your son was born without legs. Your son's never gonna walk a day in his life. Probably gonna be bound to a wheelchair, and most likely you might wanna find certain things in certain situations that's gonna be easier, not only for him, but for you guys as well. I mean, this is back in '89 and, late '80s, when you have a son being born with missing both of his legs, the expectations from the medical staff isn't that high. But I feel like the fact that, my parents were very strong together as a family, as a unit. My mom was a nurse herself. They kind of knew that this wasn't the end result. They didn't take no for an answer. And they did their research. They reached out to got other doctors' opinions. My mom knew other people within the hospital that could ask questions. And by the time I was 9 months, they had me fitted and walking on prosthetic legs. And that's just kind of crazy to think, because a lot of people ask me all the time, how does it feel to lose your legs? And I don't know. Yeah. I have no clue. I've never had legs to lose. Wow. And I tell many people all the time, that's almost the great thing about my situation, because when you kind of can compare something, you had your legs and you lost them, that's way harder than what I went through, because you can compare it to what it was like when you had your legs. But for somebody like me who never had them, when I wake up every day from the day I was born, from the time I knew I was walking, I had to put on my legs, one leg on at a time.
Wow. So at what age did you realize that you were different, that you didn't have legs? And did you begin to question your parents? Take me back to that.
Yeah, I mean, there was different moments. I can remember, when I was 4 years old and I had my surgery, I had some revisions on my legs, and, I had to sit in a wheelchair for about, 6 weeks. The only time I was in the wheelchair, and I was questioning, okay, this is different. This is not normal. And also this, when I was, playing sports, my leg would pop off. I was like, okay, this is not normal. But as a kid, and especially in elementary school, it was almost a cool thing, right? It was I parlayed it as in, it was like on every week when somebody has something showing talent, I won every time. Look, I can do this with my leg. I can do with that. I got all the intention. Kids were fascinated, but there was this transition when I was kind of elementary school going to middle school. I'll never forget. I was going to a middle school dance, and it was my first middle school dance. It was just back in, I can't remember, Virginia Tech and Florida State was in a national championship. Wow. That was, let you know, I remember that because my parents got me 2 jerseys, brand new Virginia Tech and Florida State jerseys. Nobody had these jerseys in our hometown. They went specially ordered these jerseys. But the jerseys were, since I was such a little kid, the jerseys were so long that I couldn't wear them with pants. It looked funny. So I had to wear them with baggy shorts. Yeah. And I was like, man, I'm going to go to my first middle school dance, and I'm going to shut the dance down. Like I'm trying to figure out which jersey I'm going to wear. Is it going to be the Virginia Tech jersey? Is it going to be the Florida State? I'm like, I'm testing them out. I'm trying this on. I ended up going with the FSU jersey. It was the white jersey with the gold trim. I'll never forget. And I'm thinking, man, when I get to this dance, that I'm gonna stop the dance with this jersey. Everybody's gonna congratulate me, ask me where I got it. You know, first dance, it's gonna be older people there. It's gonna be cool. I'll never forget, I walk into the dance with my shorts and my jersey. And I'll never forget when I walked into the dance, everybody stopped. But they wasn't looking at my jersey. They was looking at my legs.
Wow.
And that was kind of one of the first moments in my life, really, you know what I mean, kind of growing up as a kid, like, wow, I'm different. And the whole dance, everybody was looking at me. And I was stopping. I was getting the looks that I thought I wanted, but they was looking down at my legs. And, you know, that moment and that night, you know, I cried. And I was upset. I was mad. That's when I really started questioning, like, why am I different? You know what I mean? What's going on? And that was probably the best moments in my life, because I had to look at myself in the mirror and say, you know what, you are different.
Wow.
And you're gonna have to figure this out.
During that time, did you go through any bullying whatsoever?
A little bit, you know what I mean? A lot of people laughed at me, they pointed at me, they made fun of me, they joked, and but at the end of the day, I learned how to laugh at myself. That was one of the biggest things at life, is that, cause I'm clumsy. I'm missing both of my legs. I can't feel the ground when I walk. So when I learned how to.
Listen, I have a producer. She's the same way.
Yeah.
So I understand.
Right, you know how it goes. And when you can learn how to laugh at yourself, don't take yourself so serious, right? That's the beauty. What can they make fun of you about, right? What you gonna get we're so worried and get so carried away what the other person's thinking, what that person's thinking, and what they're gonna make fun of us about. But when you can take a moment and don't take yourself so serious, right? Humble yourself a little bit. We're all goofy, right? We all have our issues. We all have our problems, right? Laugh at yourself. Laugh at you. When you can learn to laugh at yourself, all that bullying and making fun of, being picked on, you take their power away. Because what I realized, when bullies and people who put you down, they feed off of that. When they see you become uncomfortable, when they see you, start getting down about yourself and start, really feeding into the things that they're saying about you, that's more fuel to their bullying. But when they see you laughing and coming up with better jokes about my own self and rolling with the punches, what's the point? They have no power.
So Blake, hearing you say that, talking about the bullying aspect, I'm always curious, because for those that are watching this, I mean, I like to have teachable moments during this. It's all about educating, inspiring, and entertaining. And for the educational aspect, for those that are watching this, when it comes to your foundation,
yes,
as a child, and you're going through all of that, and you're battling these emotions, what was your foundation to kind of get you and propel you forward to be able to escape all the things that you were dealing with at that time?
Yeah, I think back in my foundation, of course, I thank my family and my friends, my mother and my father, my grandparents, my brother, for not treating me different, right? And I'll never forget, it was about 10, 11 years old, and my dad coached me for a lot of my activities growing up. Then eventually he had to pass me along, because I was so good and he didn't know much about basketball, that he actually had to get a good coach, a better coach, put me on a better team. And he pulled me to the side right before the season about to start. He said, Blake, I want you to sit you down. You're about to have a new coach, other, good guys on the team. But there might be some times and situations where the coach might ask you not to run as much as the other kids.
Yeah.
Or the coach might tell you to sit aside when they're doing suicides. And at the time, I'm like, Dad, what are you talking about? Like, I'm a player like the rest of them.
Yeah.
And he said, when they do ask you to sit aside and not do as much as other kids, he didn't say why. He just said, just be prepared for this. You say no, and you continue run with everybody else. And I'm like, sure, Pops. Cool, whatever. No less than 2-3 weeks later, we're doing practice, end of the practice, doing suicides. And we get to the last 2 or 3 runs. And the coach said, Blake, don't worry about it. Out of everybody, call me out. Blake, don't worry about it. You ain't got to do these last 2. He felt sorry for me because of my legs. This is an all-star team, too. This ain't just like a recreational league. This is an all-star team, but something in his heart said, I don't want Blake to run. And the second he did that, instantly, immediately, what my father told me a couple of weeks ago about don't take the easy road out. You know what I mean? When they give you that easy road out, don't take it. You finish what you started like everybody else. It clicked on me. Then it hit me again, one of those moments, like, they see me different. Everybody kind of sees me less. And at the kid, I was moving and running just like everybody else.
Right.
I was running. It wouldn't hurt me just as more in my head than everybody else, but to them, It was the right thing to do to let me take the easy road out.
Wow.
And I tell people that's probably one of my biggest disabilities. It's not my legs. It's what people think I can do with my legs. It's the perception, what people assume, the fact that I'm missing my legs and the fact that I have a disability, that I can't walk up the stairs and I might need to take the elevator. Or the fact that I have a disability, that I might not be as smart as everybody else, or the fact that I have a disability, I shouldn't have to work hard as everybody else.
So that fuel right there, did that propel you in sports moving forward throughout high school? Is that like what you used to?
Through my whole life. I can remember as a kid, I would even almost wear pants majority of my time because I was dealing with a lot of insecurities and situations in my life because, being laughed at, being pointed at, even up all through high school, answering questions. I just wanted a normal life. But the time that I would wear shorts was on the basketball court. The time I would show my legs was on the baseball field or pickup game because that's when I could prove to you that I'm an athlete. That's when I could gain your respect. If we were just walking in the hallways or in the classrooms and you could see my legs, you would think, oh, that's sad, man. He's probably living he's born with that leg. But if we was on the basketball court and there was a basketball in my hand and I could hit you with a little pop, pop, pop with my leg, folks were like, oh, he's open. Instantly would gain somebody respect. So I would use sports to give me, not only to show other people, but to show myself that I'm no different than everybody else. Wow. I might have different challenges, right? It might take me a little bit extra longer time to put on my legs. Yeah. But that's why I love sports. When it comes down to fourth quarter, 5 seconds left, the ball is in my hands and my team is losing. I'm trying to win it for my team. Legs or no legs, disability or no disability, you're gonna stop me. Right. You throw all that out the window because one, you don't want to get embarrassed, and two, you don't want to let your team down. And you came this far, and you ain't gonna say, I feel sorry for this guy because he has no legs to let him win. Nah, forget that. We're gonna get this win. So I love using sports as a competitive nature to people how to respect my talents and look past the fact that I was missing my legs.
Powerful, man. I'm sitting here getting chills. Thinking about that. You mentioned basketball and you mentioned baseball. When did you first discover track? How did that come about?
Yeah, I was actually, I played basketball and baseball my whole life. Never ran track and field a day in my life. I had friends and that ran track. I always go watch them. There was, with the legs and the devices that I had, growing up in Tennessee as well, being accessible to only certain things. Track wasn't my thing. Basketball, I could maneuver a little bit. They had good legs, just not for sprinting. I get to college 2007, going into 2008. It was the 2008 Paralympic Games. I was in my dorm room eating a bowl of Fruit Loops, living the freshman life, right? Living off of cereal. And I was watching ESPN. And on ESPN, actually, Oscar Pistorius came on TV. And he was highlighted because he won 100 meters, 200 meters, and 400 meters in the Paralympic Games. And he made top 10. And I'll never forget, I'm getting the bowl of cereal, I'm watching. I was looking for the basketball games or whatever's happening. And they show him. And it was somebody like me, right, wearing prosthetic legs. And it was a crowd of people. And Brian, I'm telling you, when I was younger, I would go home and I would have visions. You know what I mean? I wasn't seeing things clear. I would just have thoughts and dreams of me performing in a stadium, right? But you gotta think, I'm born without legs. Like, I'm like this. And so as clear as those thoughts were and as quick as they came, they left even quicker because my doubts and insecurities would tell me, dude, you're born without legs? They don't have things like that for you. You're not going to the NBA. When I seen him running on ESPN, it was in Beijing in the Birds. That's 90,000 people in the stands. And he was smoking everybody, right? I was like,
Manifested.
That's it.
Wow.
They have something for me,
Yeah.
right? And I was like, I noticed one thing though. There was one thing different than what he had and I didn't have. It wasn't the fact that he was athletic. It wasn't the fact that he was fast. It was the legs that he had. And I was like, you know what? I got to get those legs. If I get ththose legs, I know I can compete. And that's when the dream started.
How did you go about getting those legs?
It started out, I was reaching out to people. I didn't even have video of myself playing basketball or baseball. I just had a picture. I had a picture of me holding a basketball and the other small little pictures. And I was just sending people emails. Hey, my name is Leeper. I'm born without legs. I love playing basketball and baseball. I have visions and dreams of running track and field. If you know anybody, know anything, I would love information. Of course, I heard 100 no's. People was like, or even That's awesome. That's amazing. There's not much I can do for you because the prosthetic legs themselves almost run from $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 for just a pair because it's carbon fiber custom fit. It's not something that you're just going to hand out and just say, hey, try these out. So crazy story. I actually was on MySpace. This is take you back. You remember MySpace? 2008. So I looked on the Paralympic roster, and on the roster they had the list not only of the Paralympic runners but where they're from. And seeing a guy that was actually from Tennessee, Nashville, and it was like an hour and a half from me. So I sent him up on MySpace a message. I was like, hey man, I'm a huge fan. Seen you from Tennessee. Seen you went to the Paralympic Games in 2008. Competed against Oscar. If you have any information, please let me know. And that's when it started off of MySpace messages. He gave me his coach's information. His coach's information gave me another guy's information, which led me to CAF, Challenge Athletes Foundation, which donated and provided my first pair of running legs.
Wow.
And since then, that was in 2009. And after that, that's when my life changed for forever.
What was first? What happened first, man?
So the first thing was I actually flew out here. I was living in Tennessee. I flew out to California, and that was my first time in California. And I actually flew out to San Diego. It was like around in October, and I flew out. It was cold. It was snowing in Tennessee. I had a jacket on. I had a bubble jacket and some pants on and a toboggan, and I flew out to San Diego.
A lot of people don't know what a toboggan is.
Yeah, a beanie. My bad. It's a beanie. Yeah, I had a beanie on. And I flew out to San Diego, and it was like this, like it is today. I mean, 80 degrees, 70 degrees, sun's out. It just felt like paradise. And it was on the plane for 4 hours. And I go from, not saying nothing wrong with Tennessee, but just the weather was pretty cold at the time. But I flew into paradise, San Diego, sunny San Diego, and I was like, wow, something magical. But I didn't meet nobody at that time. I didn't know anybody. I just felt something in my heart. It's something magical. I was like, I want to live here. This is where I need to be at. Fast forward, I actually go to my first race about a year later. It was in Edmond, Oklahoma, my first race ever. My mother, my father, my brother, we all hop in the van, in the family minivan, drive out 14 hours to Oklahoma. Wow. And I was like, you might take fourth or fifth kid, like, you know what I mean, good luck. And I was like, oh my gosh, we done drove all this way and I'm about to choke. Get into the blocks, gun goes off, I'm driving. I look up, they're a little bit ahead of me. Then by the time I get 60 meters, I just blow past everybody.
Wow.
First race ever, and I win. And I qualify for the Paralympic team. And the coach comes up to me, and she's like, how many races have you ran? Who are you? Where'd you come from? I was like, Coach, I've never ran track and field a day in my life. It was my first track meet ever. She was astonished. She was amazed. She's like, don't worry, you're going to be hearing from us. Go back home, go train, get ready for next year. Then about 3 weeks later, they called me, said somebody dropped out. You have the second fastest time in the nation right now. Do you want to go to Brazil? And I didn't have a passport. My biggest trip was San Diego, Oklahoma. And they expedited my passport. And I look up a month later, I'm in Brazil, Rio de Janeiro, running at an international track meet, taking silver and a bronze. It was nuts.
I really want to end the interview right now. It's so good. But, I mean, you had no training whatsoever.
No training at all. Just a vision, just a dream.
Where does that will come from? Does that stem back from early up?
It's prior. Everything, and I'm a true believer of this, everything that we go through in life prepares us for the next mission. Every little small task, every little small failure or big failure, me being born without legs, playing baseball, playing sports, you know, seeing my vision in an arena that I could even picture all the way through, that I even had doubts in myself. Every time I fell down, right? Everything that I went through was preparing me for that moment. And I didn't even know what that moment was going to be. So how can something prepare us that we don't even know, we can't even see it for ourselves, but it does, it shapes us. So if that's the situation, if that's the case, if it's preparing us for the future, everything that we do today, everything that we're going through today, one, we should be thankful. Yeah. Good, bad, or indifferent. If there's something bad that happens in your life, you should be thankful because it's shaping you. And two, you should give it 120%. You should give it all you got because you're going to face something down the road that you went through today. And you'll be like, I've been through this before. Yeah. I'm prepared. I'm ready. So all the times to where I was running, you know what I mean, them suicides, you know what I mean, the extra run, you remember when
touching the line.
The touching the line. When the coach told me, Blake, you sit out. right? And I said, no, I'm gonna finish this run. Building up those muscles when I was 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, prepare me for that 100-meter race. And, you know, jumping on the world stage with some prosthetic legs that I've only had less than a year. And not giving up as a child when I became an adult is what prepared me to make that crossover where I didn't even know anything I was doing, but I was prepared not even knowing I was prepared.
Wow. Speaking of challenges, I want to get to talk about some of the challenges that you faced, but I want to know a little bit more what happened post-Brazil, because I knew the Arsenio Hall is when your life completely kind of changed.
Yes.
That was prior to 2013.
Yeah.
What happened after Brazil?
So after Brazil, that was in about around 2010, around 2011, and I'm one of the fastest runners in the world. Wow. Now I was living in Tennessee. I ended up moving out to San Diego. And once I moved out to San Diego, I started training fully. I was full-time training, trying to become an Olympic, Paralympic runner. I was eating like an Olympian. I was training like an Olympian. And so going in 2012, I actually broke the world record and tied the Oscar's world record in 100 meters. And I was favored to win the 100, 200, and potentially the 4 in the relay. So going into the Paralympic Games, I had 4 medals I should have won that year, 2012 Paralympic Games, first Paralympic Games ever. I'll never forget flying over there, you know, representing my country, the open ceremonies. My grandfather and my grandmother flew over there. They was running in their 70s. My grandfather was 72 years old. Wow. First time ever flying. Doesn't fly. He's old school. You know the old school Southern guys. They don't fly. They don't fly. But for his grandson, and he's had multiple business opportunities in the past where he pours concrete and does construction. Built up this amazing construction company, and they wanted to fly him all around the nation to build and these sculptures and these sidewalks, and he said no, because if I can't drive it, I'm not going. But his grandson made it to the Paralympic Games in London. He has to fly. That's the only way he can get there. He hopped on a plane. And I went over there, and I didn't do as good as I wanted to, but I took a silver and I took a bronze. I remember the night of my bronze medal, I told my family I want to meet you guys in this corner right here. And I win my bronze medal. You know, Leapers blast out in front of 85,000 people in the Olympic Stadium. And I go over and I meet my family. I see my grandmother and I hug her. I see my mom, my dad. I hugged him. I'm looking for my granddad. I can't find my granddad. And he's over in the corner crying like a 2-year-old baby. First time I ever seen him cry a day in my life. Wow. And it was just tears of joy. It wasn't tears of sadness. It was tears of joy because he just had so much worry. I could tell it just thought of his son being born without legs, and me winning that medal was just a clarification that I was going to be okay. And that was, 21, 22 years later after I was born. Wow. So I win the medals, silver and bronze. I come back home, and my life is just taking off. I get Blake Leeper Day back home in my hometown. I get the keys to the city. I got the keys to the city. I started doing TV shows, the Arsenio Hall show. I went from being just, an average kid being born without legs to now being a Paralympic star. And, this is, a year later, this after Oscar went through the situation that he went through. So now I was #1 in the world. Wow. Just like that. 2 years later, 2 years prior to that, I wasn't even running track and field. I didn't even know what blocks were. Fast forward 2 years, now I'm the fastest Paralympic runner in the world, silver and bronze medalist, keys to the city, doing TV shows, meeting Bo Jackson. This was a world that was thrown at me that I asked for it. I said I wanted it, but I wasn't prepared for it. Wow. And I tell people all the time, I'm sure you can speak to this, be careful what you wish for. Really be careful what you wish for, because this is the world when you say you want to be in the star, you want to say you want to be on top, it's hard being #1 because all eyes are on you. It's hard being pulled and people want you over here, people want you over there, people want you doing shows, people want you at events, people want you at parties, but yet people still want you to keep winning. Wow. And that's something that I struggle with and I deal with. Here I was 23 years old. I was making so much money that I've never seen before, more money than I ever even was making in 1 year, I was making in a month. I was on top of the world doing TV shows, living a lifestyle that I was out of control. I was drinking, I was partying, and I was surrounding myself with people who didn't want to tell me no or couldn't tell me no.
Didn't have your best interest.
They didn't have my best interest. They wanted to keep the thing going. To keep it going was to keep me happy. And to keep me happy was to keep saying yes to me. I didn't have people really in my life that would say, Blake, you need to stop. Blake, you need to chill. And even if they did, like some of my family members and some of my friends, I would shut them out and be like, you know what, you don't know what I'm going through right now. You know what I mean? You don't understand what I face. You know how many flights that I take? You know, it's all about me, me, me. Do you know what I do? Where I had that mentality and that mindset to where I couldn't relate to people who really had my best interest, and I would shut them out. Don't even talk to me. And then it got to the point where it got out of control to where I lost track, right? I lost focus. And I ended up, you know what I mean, even still, I was still the best in the nation. I was still best in the world. I was still winning races and still partying and living this lifestyle that was completely out of control. I was still smiling on TV, right? I still had things going till I went to Nationals 2015. And I was a week off from partying. I had a party. I went to a party a week before, got drunk, did some cocaine, right? Showed up at the track meet that week later and tested positive for cocaine. Broke the American record, right? Had the fastest time in the world. Now I'm looking at my life. Now I'm suspended. Now I'm a year out from the Olympic Games. They want to suspend me for 2 years. You know how hard that conversation was, having to call my mom and my dad. They actually bought tickets. You know, I qualified that race to go to Toronto for the Pan American Games. And they bought tickets to go to the Pan American Games. And I had to call my dad and my mom and tell them, I'm sorry, and I know the tickets are non-refundable, but you guys ain't gonna be able to go to watch your son run because I couldn't control my personal life and my outside issues.
Wow. Man.
That was rough. They actually came back and said, you know what, Blake, if you clean up your life and you show us that you really want to change, you an improvement, you know, with the Olympic Committee, we'll give you a year and you can run in the Olympic Games. So that's what I did. That was my chance. You know, we all have our different rock bottoms. And I always tell people, when your back is against the wall and you only have one choice, and that's to go up, you do remarkable and amazing things. Wow. And that's what happened to me. I cleaned up, took a vow of sobriety, and I was like, I'm never gonna have a drink ever again.
How long have you?
It's been 2 years. It's been a little bit less than 2 years now. Wow. And my sobriety, this is pretty interesting. My sobriety day, Blake Leeper Day, is October 13th. My sobriety date is October 14th. So the day after is, quote, the Blake Leeper Day in my hometown was the day I was in a recovery meeting admitting that I'm an alcoholic and I have an issue that I'm ready to change it. And that was the beauty part I tell people. When you're in denial, you're running from things, right? But when you finally can say, I have a problem in whatever the situation is, if it's drinking, is it writing, is it speaking, whatever it is, if you have a problem, that's the beauty part about acknowledging I have a problem. Because once you acknowledge you have the problem, guess what? There comes a solution. You can start working. And I'll never forget, when being suspended, it had been about a few months. I wasn't eating, I wasn't drinking, I was depressed, right? And when I stand up in that meeting and say, I'm Blake Leeper and I'm alcoholic, I have an issue, I have a problem, it's like the world was lifted off of my shoulders. I could finally breathe again. Wow. And so I moved up here to LA, started training very hard. Willie Gault started coaching me, you know what I mean? 85 Super Bowl champion, Olympian, took me under his wing. I started training with other Olympians. I got to the point where I became the fastest. I was back in the gym 4 times a week. I was on the track 6 times a week. And I was getting ready I cleaned up. I was ready to go. They cleared me to run. And I actually qualified for the Paralympic Games, broke another American record. And it was a week before I'm about to go to Rio to compete in the Paralympic Games. I get a phone call and said that the International Paralympic Committee didn't agree with my sanction and I can't go to the Rio Games.
So they deny you?
Yeah.
So you're denied, and I'm sure internally you're torn.
Oh, I'm broken. It hurt. I'll never forget. I stayed in my room, and I kept my legs off. I didn't move for like 3 days. Too. I was back again to that feeling of feeling depressed when I was suspended again.
Were you contemplating drinking?
I was on the edge. I was like, man, I felt connived. I felt like they played me. I felt played. And it was the first time, one of the first times in my life that when I said I did everything in my willpower to do the right thing. And that's just, you know what I mean, me and other people, you know, alcoholics, you leave something in the side, your side pocket just in case to protect yourself. I left it all out there. I was attending recovery, 2 recovery meetings a day. I was being drug tested 3 times a week. Wow. I never missed not one practice, not one appointment. I played it by the book on this one completely, 120%. I still got denied. And I'll never forget that moment when I was watching my teammates walk into the Olympic Stadium in Rio. It hurt me. But then I had to do I did an interview with People magazine. So we meet at the hotel, and I'm doing the interview, and I'm sitting, and during the interview, I'm watching the Olympic Games go on, and all this sadness and depression, it was like a light switch, Brian. I'm telling you, it turned. I was like, you know what? If I'm walking around sad and depressed, and if I go out there and drink and relapse, then they've really won. Yeah. That is the victory for them, right? If I get back to the grind and use this as fuel to the fire of becoming the best person I can become and become one of the best athletes in the world, then they've lost. Wow. So I took that moment, flipped it, and from that day forward, I went back to the track. I went back to the weight room, and I grinded it out a whole nother year. So this now we're talking about 2 years being off the track, a whole nother year. And I told myself that I'm going to be the fastest man in the world. I told myself I'm going to break Oscar's world record. And every morning, one of my buddies, he plays in the NFL, and he texts me every morning, I'm going to make all pro and then Pro Bowl. And I text him, I used to text him, I'm going to break Oscar Pistorius' world record. And that was my motivation, and I knew that I could do it. And this is fast forward, now we're 3 or 4 years down the road now, almost 5 from the time I first seen him, never even run a day in my life. Then I'm off suspension on almost 2 months ago. It was June 21st. I actually get a phone call to the U.S. Outdoor Nationals able body, and they let me. I had one of the fastest times in the nation to get me into the track meet, and I get to the track meet, first ever person with a disability double leg amputee to run an outdoor national. And you got to think everybody else has legs. These are the fastest runners in the world. And in the nation, for sure the fastest runners in the nation. They're trying to find out who's the fastest runner in America. And they let me in, top 32. And we go through the first round, I'm nervous. And so good. Yeah, it's crazy. I'm like, you got to think, I went from being a suspended athlete, running in Paralympics to now running at nationals, outdoor nationals, seeing not only top Paralympics, I'm the only Paralympic, I'm seeing top people in the world. First round, I'm in lane 4, gun goes off. And I'm getting out, and it's like I'm running, and I'm with these guys. They're not too far ahead of me. So we come around the curve, I'm picking up speed with my blades, I'm picking up, and I catch up with them, and I get edged out towards the end, and I take third. Top 2 ultimately qualify, so I take third with a 45.5. Oscar's world record is a 45.39. So and that was my first real race almost in 2 years. I'm like, okay. But I was number 17. And they actually take 16 out of 17 to make it to the next round. So I'm like, oh, I'm out. I could have ran fast. I'm breaking the race down. Then I'm doing my cool down. I'm like, well, that was a good run. It's good to be back. I'm kind of upset. Everybody's congratulating me. That was an American record. Then literally 2 minutes later, one of the coaches coming to me and said, somebody got DQ'd. Somebody got DQ'd.
That means disqualified.
Yeah, somebody got disqualified. You're into the next round. And so I get into the next round. You know what I mean? I end up taking, I think, 6th or 7th in that race, but I end up breaking Oscar's world record, went 45.25. And now I consider myself the fastest man in the world ever on blades. And it's just kind of crazy to think. And I tell you that, I told you this early, I promise you, there's no way that I could have not broken that. The only way I could have broke that world record is by going through what I went through. The only way I broke that world record was because I failed that drug test. The only way I broke that world record is being suspended for 2 years. The only way I broke that world record is feeling that pain of missing out on the Olympic Games in 2016. I'm telling you, when something is taken away from me, at some point I was kind of taking it for granted. I put my legs on. You gotta think, I was born without legs, and I was still taking running for granted. I gotta practice again. I gotta put my running legs on again. I was taking it for granted, but it was taken away from me. They took the ability for me to run. And when you get something taken away from you,
speaking of the ability to run and blaze, we're gonna go outside. I want to go and, I want to show people these blades.
Yeah.
But before that, because I know that there are a lot of people, man, we live in this world where it's instant gratification.
Yes.
I feel like in the next 15 to 20 years, there's gonna have to be some therapy set aside for us because we're so plugged in.
Yes.
To so much, and I feel like with that being said, there are gonna be a lot of people that are going to need therapy.
yes.
What has therapy specifically done for you? How has it changed your life?
Man, it's changed. I grew up in the South, so we really didn't believe in.
We
We don't believe in
Black man,
it.
stubborn, black
Stubborn.
man, no
Look, our therapy is having a drink with the fellas and you sitting out and you talk a little bit, get a little buzz. But I'm starting to see, my therapist, I call my sports psychologist, is the man who keeps me playing and level in my head. It has helped me tremendously because it's really helped me dig into me. You know what I mean? It's really helped me figure out who I am. And to figure out all of my insecurities, the issues that I've dealt with as a child growing up, being born without legs, how that's translated to the person I am today. And it helps me reassess my life. We as humans, we like to go off our first emotions, right? We feeling this, so we're gonna react on them. That's the worst thing we could do. Sometimes you need to take a step back, reassess the situation, talk it over with somebody that you trust. And then by me talking it over, I look at my situation and say, you know what, that wasn't what I was feeling earlier. That wasn't the right thing to do. Or what I was feeling earlier wasn't really the right action to call for. So just talking things out. And I grew up in a community in a culture where you don't talk things out. You don't talk things out. You keep that in. You don't show emotion. Real men don't cry. You know what I mean? But I've been having therapy sessions where I'm just bawling like a 2-year-old baby, like a little girl. I'm just like, oh my God, Doc, But it helps me because once you break it down, you can build it right back up. And that's the beautiful thing about it. I've been able to break barriers and walls down in my emotions, in my subconscious, that now I can build it back up to be the best human being I can be today.